Jolantru, greetings and welcome to Deep Space Nine and aboard my flagship, the USS Shadowstar, for this Star Trek Online stats review, where, disclaimer, from this point forward with any of these reviews, I will be taking into account not just the stats of the ship when scoring it in its potential segments and its overall, but also the cost and difficulty of acquiring it, as well as the accessibility and reach of the ship once acquired. In this question, this will mean we will be talking about the ship in still the original 3 formats. We'll take a quick look at her customization options. Spoiler warning, the ship in question today doesn't have very many options. We'll take a look at, well, quite frankly, the blazingly good tactical stats, but the stats of the ship, and discussing what this means for the ship as well as its consoles and traits. Something that I kind of glossed over during the testing of the ship. YouTube members may have seen this already. Then finally we'll take the ship into action, which again should be somewhat interesting. Before I give the conclusion to the ship. Now, with this being said, please allow me to introduce you to the USS Kermit NCC 1955F, a Mars pilot escort vessel from the 32nd century. Not sure how this ship got back to this time when the temporal powers have been outlawed and banned, but apparently it still managed to get back to this time. Okay, I apologize. USS Kermit is because it was inspired by the ISS Ribbit. Oggy from Augment Dictator Games, your live stream with this ship has set me off, and I'm afraid this is the appearance aesthetic that I've decided really looks awesome. Damn you, Oggy. But before we actually get into the proper review, I do need to say this. Thank you to this channel's donators, Negus and Dante Demonic, as well as Skyhawking over for his work on Discord. Also, can I say a thank you to the previous Patreon supporters and possible future YouTube members: Tribal Typhoon, Travis Games, Dark Stars Order, Cross-Eyed Deplorable, and again, Skyhawkings. And finally, a big thank you again to our Twitch subscribers, who are Tribal Typhoon, Miss Future Teach, Fox Plays Games, and I have to shout this out a little bit louder, Miss Future Teach again for all of her gifted support. This video would not be possible without their support. So guys, by their generosity, shall we begin? Okay, so the Mars class. Anyone else notice that it seems to be a ship within a shell? I mean, it's got an upper and lower shell on the main body, and also it looks like there's clamps down on the actual nacelles to lock them in place on the ship. But maybe that's just me. Things for the visual review. Now, things to not mention at the visual review, because I want to quickly gloss over them here. First of all, customization options, none. Well, there are some, but as far as style goes, there are none. There seems to be a translation error, but they'll get that fixed. We have the Walker Bridge. Woo, glorious. No. You get the Starfleet 32nd century hull, which is nice. You also seem to get the Ambassador, as well as other legendary hulls. Defiant, Galaxy, Intrepid. We get the Janeway hull, which looks okay on the ship. The Sovereign and the NX ones. Any of the newer hull types seem to look fine. Even Type 7A looks pretty cool on the ship, to be honest. Type 7, yeah, kind of feeling the age from that one. 8 and 8B, they're okay, but the moment you go to the older hulls, it falls apart. Though Type 0 seems to work a bit too well on the ship, almost awkwardly, but I appreciate that. Maybe it's just me. Oh well, stats time. You know, the actual interesting part. Credit where credit is due. It's kind of fitting to see her here. I don't know if she's worthy of being on such legendary and hallowed ground, but she is deserving to be in the shadow of the Defiant. No stand above it though. You see, stats wise, she is magnificently strong. A great pilot ship, a great DPS vessel, but perhaps she's limited to that, and that may be my issue with her. You see, as I tested her, there is one thing that I solemnly felt, and I would say I'm disappointed, but I wasn't ever hyped for this ship. This is not the 32nd century ship that I'm really looking forward to possibly getting, and as such it doesn't really bother me. But I'm going to say this right now. In comparison to previous escorts and pilot escorts and such, there's nothing about her, about the Mars class, that really makes her stand out. There's nothing that would make me choose her over any of the others. But let's get into the stats and I'll explain this. She's a tier 6 escort with a hull at level 65 of 51,750. Her hull modifier is 1.15, her shield modifier is 0.8. She has a very impressive turn rate of 18, an impulse modifier of 0.23. Her inertia rating is 75, helping her glide around the field. She has an antimatter warp core, of course, with bonus power settings of +10 to weapons and +10 to engines. She has two aft and 5 forward weapons with an experimental weapon slot and the ability to equip dual cannons, of course. 2 device slots as expected on an escort. Her console layout is 5 tactical, 3 engineering and 3 science. She has pilot maneuvers due to being a pilot vessel and has the Admiralty stats of 34 engineering, 63 tactical and 29 science. Finally, she has been equipped with the very functional Federation Battle Cloak 32nd century. Her bridge officers are as followed. She has 3 Lieutenant Bridge Officers. These are a Tactical Lieutenant, a Science Lieutenant, and a Universal Lieutenant with Intelligence Specialization. She has 1 Lieutenant Commander, which is an Engineering seat. She has 1 Commander, which is a Tactical seat with Pilot Specialization. All of this comes together to account for one thing. She's tactically very strong, but she could have been stronger. Easily could have been stronger, without changing too much on her. Secondly, although it sounds like she's got a balanced ability with her engineering and science, and that should theoretically show itself with her, during testing, the one thing I felt very uncomfortable with was, with exception to drain builds, her science side seems to be waned, as well as her actual engineering capabilities. They're almost overshadowed. Honestly, the feeling I got from testing the support DPS side of things before I tried the DPS bit, and I'm not very good at DPS, I'll admit that right now, every YouTube member just found this out. As much as her turn rate, her impulse and inertia give us a great piloting maneuverability, and a good pilot can really get the fire down with her forward attacking prowess. Whether it beam build or cannon build, she is DPS nuts when it comes to being strong. But she would have really benefited from her specialization seatings being swapped. I would have put pilot specialization on the lieutenant seat, and I would have put intel specialization on the commander's seat. This is because with her already being so well focused in her DPS side of things, you might as well have run with that. Made her a specialized boat, focused purely on the DPS. This is her problem. Because her DPS is focused to a heavy degree, yet she does attempt to maintain flexibility. She ends up being one of those ships which has actually lessened her effectiveness in her specialized role due to attempting to spread its wings a bit too far. Disappointing, if I was to say. This also leads to a secondary problem. The majority of, and I'm sorry to say this, Zen escorts actually match her. That's the biggest problem here. The majority of Zen escorts have got the same level of capability of her, with her having only one area she really surpasses them in: maneuverability. They're all just as enduring as her, and they've all got the same firepower. So if they've all got her defense and her offense, then the problem she has is that speed had to account for her expense, being an Infinity prize pack ship. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's not enough. Something had to be enhanced. Let's put it that way. Something about her should be enhanced a little bit further. She's an amazing DPS vessel. Please do not get me wrong. But obviously, as an escort, she's never going to be a good tank. But her support side seems so limited into either being a console-centric support boat, which means you're going to have to use consoles to give yourself the control ability, the healing ability, the drain ability. You're really going to have to use consoles that adapt. Such as the Red Matter console, you might have to use that in order to get your control, because you're definitely going to get it via bridge officers. And then you're then trying to boost that control with what consoles you have left over. That's my issue with her. She's very heavily orientated, but then she sacrifices it. I probably would have appreciated one extra science console, one less engineering. Yes, we've seen that everywhere else as well. And given her that a little bit more drain, EPG, cannon power, or EPG beam power. Just saying. That, let's go take a look at her trait and console, because these are something to look at. Okay, so some of you guys are getting a sneak peek at the build I went for now. First of all, yeah, let's bring it back in, because I'm going to have to, really, aren't I? Right, so here's the things. First thing I want to talk about, not the weapons it comes with, because honestly, couldn't care less about them. 32nd century refits, they're pretty cool. However, sorry, 32nd century refit and 32nd century phasers as such, they're pretty cool. They have slightly different abilities to each other, very slightly. With a 2.5% covering 5% of your bridge officer's ability recharge, or a 2.5% recharge an additional 1% per 20 seconds. They have different effects. It's fine, it's cool. They've all got their own little effects, fine. Basic weapons. What we are going to focus on here is, first of all, the subspace pocket projector. Now, I've got a couple of things to say about this. First of all, when I did the intelligence review, I just straight up said, I do not think this is going to be a good console. My opinion of this has not changed at all. I know there are people out there differencing opinion to me right now. Fair play. The problem is this. It's slow. It's a very slow firing projectile. Yes, the projectile can't be targeted, as I noticed, but it's slow. It deals average damage. And I'm going to emphasize that average damage, basically the same as a torpedo. Has short range to fire, as in it will not fire when the rest of your weapons are firing unless you get nice and close. And then to make things nice and worse for you, it's got a ridiculously shallow targeting arc. Now, it's pretty cool its power, the fact that it has the temporal effects. For those that don't know, temporal weapons generally slow enemy ships by speed and turn rate. And it will do that, taking a third of their flight speed away, and also 14.9... Sorry, it takes away a third of their flight speed and turn rate for 14.9 seconds. I've confused myself a little bit there. It's just... that really doesn't make up for its low punch. And it is a low punch at a short range where you are struggling to get the best out of it because you have to be within 1 kilometer of the enemy to get the best out of this. That is a thing to note there. In my opinion, any experimental weapon is better. And everyone should know the one experimental weapon I say is just to throw it in the bin, don't even try. I would even say the original experimental weapon that you got on the Allied Escorts, that was better. The railgun. It is, look at that. 360-degree targeting arc with almost 7,500 kinetic damage. It massively outpowers it. Because that one, subspace pocket projector is up to 6,000. I'm already surpassing it. And yeah, I've upgraded, but even before that, this is at least equal to, if not slightly weaker in damage output, but it's guaranteed, and it has the full 10 kilometer range that is not going to be lost even if you're firing 10 kilometers. It has shield penetration. It may not have any special slowing effects, but it deals the additional damage, and as a kinetic weapon, this is great for torpedo builds because it's dealing the same kinetic damage. Slam shot, same thing. It's just, the subspace projector, my score for it, 2 out of 10. It's getting a punch from me, and it may have got a higher score if it wasn't part of a lockbox infinity ship, meaning a very high gamble with a 0.4% drop rate of getting the ship, or you can try to buy it on the exchange. Currently selling for around about $1 billion. Actually more. The one I bought was $1 billion. Most of them I'm seeing there are closer to the max mark. So there are a couple below it, so get your heads in there quick if you want to get the ship. But honestly guys, a little bit disappointed here. On an Infinity Lockbox high expense ship, that can only be unlocked for one character and is not account-wide unlocked? No. No, that had to be better. Next up, let's talk about the trait. Improved locked trajectory. Cooldown on locked trajectory. Recharge reduction from front arc weapon damage as well. So, recharge time on locked trajectory pilot is set to 0. So if you lock trajectory, you can just keep spamming this off. Okay, fine. I'm not sure if that's going to turn out to be a good thing or not. I'm not one for pilot abilities, so I'm not going to grade this. I'm not going to grade this trait because I don't really use pilot abilities. I don't really know too much about pilot abilities because personally I've never really found one that I can really utilize effectively, or I found could be utilized effectively to get some decency out of it for support or DPS. I'm sorry, it might be good, but I don't know. Once per 5 seconds as well. When damaging a foe with energy weapons in your forward arc, it will reduce the recharge time of rapid fire and scatter volley by 20%. It will also reduce the recharge time on all pilot bridge officer abilities by 5%. Now, here's the thing. I can't comment about the locked trajectory. Fine. I can comment, however, about that reduced recharge time on rapid fire and scatter volley by 20%. That's quite effective, and although it's focusing on 2 specific abilities, they're kind of critical abilities. Now, rapid fire and scatter volley has had a lot of love shown to it, maybe too much, but for that very reason, that makes this trait pretty useful. Secondly, the recharge time on all pilot bridge officer abilities. That's my negative factor because, like I said, I don't view pilot abilities too highly. In my personal opinion, they're kind of the don't use abilities. I haven't used a single one and never will. Well, okay, that's a lie. I've tested them and never used them beyond that point. Same difference, right? You will have to tell me if improved lock trajectory is a good trait. Part of it is good. But, yeah, let's see. Now, to the positive. I've gone from a negative to an unsure. Of course, I'll leave the best to last. With +3 to your current maximum, your current and maximum engine subsystem power, and a +9.5% to all weapon damage versus foes within 5 kilometers. So I guess this ship is focused on being the close range fighter. What does he want to do? Become a melee ship? God damn it. I mean, it's pretty cool, I guess. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with all this. If you want to be a close range fighter, you want very high maneuverability but a focus on broadside builds. Do you know why? Because if you want to focus on your forward arc, you need to be extremely high maneuverability. You need to be very good at keeping the enemy in front of you at all times while keeping them close. Now, there are consoles that can assist with that, Graviton Displacer, for example. However, that is to say, you'd be focusing on trying to keep those enemies in front of you, or you can worry less about controlling the enemies and more about getting the damage out, which is why broadside would be more useful with this. Honestly, I would see this more useful on a ship that you've got a very high maneuverability on, but a 4-4 weapon array. That's not to say this isn't a very good console though, but like I said, it's still possible to keep the enemies in front of you close, with the right control abilities, so you're flying, sort of nanny flying with a control ship, but It is possible, or you can use the right console to boost you. If you're willing to sacrifice another console out in order to have to use something that's going to help you out in that way. Red matter, graviton displays are good examples. The active ability of this console, though, is my favourite segment. The subspace cavitation gives you a speed and turn buff with a heavy kinetic PB AoE on proximity. Now, however, I want to note that if you are too close, the damage reduces to nothing. So this is a very cautious console. Also, if you time this wrong, you can actually end up doing no damage to an enemy. And I found that very weird, because I managed to proc this off pretty effectively against the ball cube, but against some green ships, it did no damage. Against some Kardashian ships, it did no damage, and I was thinking to myself on that one. But the active ability of this is plus 50 to 200% flight turn rate increasing over duration, plus 50 to 200% flight speed increasing over duration. This is its real benefits. And it will detonate after 15 seconds, or if a foe comes within 2 kilometers of your forward arc. It's a good note to try to keep the foes away from you as long as possible, to let this really charge up, build its damage, and then do the damage. It will deal up to 38,238.9 kinetic damage to foes within 5 kilometers, with damage reducing at distance beyond 1 kilometer. And engine subsystems will be offline for 6 seconds. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. It's a very powerful console. It will deal a lot of damage. And let's be fair, it's kind of like the Phaelon array of the scimitar. So yes, you can one-shot ball cubes with this, if you know how to pull it off properly. Hey! But then again, that's neither here nor there again. Probably a console that will find most of its use in either beam fire at will broadside builds, or in torp builds, kinetic damage builds. That'll be interesting to see, actually. Okay, my score on this console, it could have gotten higher again if it was outside of the if it wasn't part of an Infinity prize pack ship, but I will still be relatively fair to it. Get 6 out of 10 from me. Would have got higher if it was easier to obtain. Would have gotten higher. Would have gone so much higher that you guys might have been thinking I was being too generous. Then again, you probably think I'm being too generous now. Okay, I've said enough on this ship. We've seen its features. Let's take it in action. Let me show you what she can do. This is going to be a cannon rapid fire build. And for the fun of it, because as much as Oggy pointed out it looks like a frog, I would want to point out it feels Jemadar. So let's go. Engage. I swear those nacelles should dock to the ship. Okay, so here we go. Let's first of all cloak ourselves. We're going to go in. If this was scatter volley right now, these guys would be in a hell of trouble. But then again, they're going to be in a hell of trouble anyway. Allow me to demonstrate. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by its toe. If it hollers, let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Yeah, was that demonstration enough? Galore class. Come here, buddy. I have a friend for you. Hello. Oh! Oh, I still got him with it. I spun around. Give him a nice little whip. You see, if you ignore all the other sciencey bits to this ship and get down to the real meat of it, she's a really damn powerful ship. Come here. Come here, you bugger. Oh, I love my control boats. Don't even know why I'm grabbing this stuff. I'm not going to use it. Right. One final air up. I'm going to come down here, lock you, get you with the electrical damage, and you guys are going to eat this. Oh. Oh dear. Not they in a bit of trouble here. No, no, no. Bye-bye. I'm just kind of toying with that one. Plain gentle. She did alright, I guess. Okay, right. This is probably one of the hardest ships I have to fundamentally summarize. Now, when I talk the tank, the support, the DPS, I talk the role itself and how that ship fits into it. So, let me give an example. If I was to apprise an Escort as a tank and say 7 out of 10, that Escort, if it was a cruiser in truth, would actually be closer to a 3 or a 4 out of 10. Let me put it that way. That is the difference in potential as a tank between an Escort and a cruiser. Okay? So, to try and keep things simpler, I just go as the role rather than the type. Filling the role, should I say. Keeping this in mind, she has a console that is good enough that I will consider it great, despite being an expensive ship. She has a trait that might be good, but I'm not sure. And she has a lackluster main weapons, experimental weapons, sorry. Her 32nd century weapons are kind of cool, but quickly replaced by lockbox variants. Get the actual lockbox versions, the proper ones, and you can get better builds as a result. Definitely want to get some omnis on this. Her tank score is 4 out of 10. She's a very tough Escort, so I will grace her with 4 out of 10 as a tank score. This comes down to her hull being strong enough to take the punishment, despite her shields not really living up to it. Her free engineering positions are going to give us some defense if you want to utilize them that way, and her free science, they're not going to make up in the shield department with only 3. So it's a bit of a shame there. Support wise, well, I'm going to be mean on her here. Sorry guys. She's a 4 out of 10 for support. She could have been potentially higher. Escorts tend to have the potential to be higher. There's just one issue. Her free science consoles are not making up for the 2 lieutenant possible science bridge officer positions, which is what I tested. The intelligence is kind of there to help in support, but it's not going to do as good of a job as it can do sitting on a lieutenant, because at this point, support wise, you're having to funnel too much focus into support that way. The maneuverability is great, I'll give her that. She's got very good maneuverability, which should be helping her score out, and along with decent firepower to help her maintain the required DPS that she must have in order not to get given a AFK penalty. But when you focus on her support, her defense drops way too quickly and she becomes a little bit too fragile, which is not good for a support ship. Secondly speaking, she's actually better at drain than any of the others. Now that's a good thing for her, but the problem is the support vessel needs to be able to adapt between different support roles, and that's why her score is low. Because if you want to utilize different support roles, you're going to have to use consoles that allow for those abilities, since the science isn't there for her. DPS. You guys may be happy with this one. She gets 9 out of 10 for DPS. In spite of her shoddy experimental weapon that can easily be replaced. However, pilot maneuvering and the rapid maneuverability of this ship, 5 forward and 2 aft weapons, 2 tactical seats, one of them being lieutenant, yes, but 2 tactical seats, possibly 3 if you want to utilize the universal. The weapon and engine bonus power, back to maneuverability, the really good turn rate, and enough toughness to let us sit in the battle for a prolonged period. Federation battle cloak, and of course when X upgraded, she gets a lot more firepower inside DPS and tactical DPS. Because like I said, she does alright in draining at least, and EPG. She does great in EPG builds. Yeah, she gets a good score, DPS wise. Definitely, if I was going to recommend her to anyone, I would be recommending her to DPS players, but only to DPS players. Because you can get ships like her for a damn sight cheaper if you are a support or tank. So you can have basically what she offers you, but at a very small percentage of the cost. And with that being stated, my overall score for this ship, now taking into account the cost of acquiring her and the limitation of her once acquired, she can only be given to one of your captains. She's not account unlocked. Her final score is 4 out of 10. She does not have the Zen Store accessibility, such as legendaries have, but she is extremely expensive to get if you're not very lucky, or willing to throw a fair bit of money and hope that she's selling for a reasonable price in the exchange. And that is her crux weakness. That is the crack in her armor. She's an expensive gain for a ship with no wow factor. I will admit she's fun. I will admit she's reasonably good looking. I will admit her console is good, and that for DPS players you will have a whale of a time with her. I'll admit all this, but the fact still remains, you can get a ship just like her, much cheaper. It's hard to get around. I'll give you a hint. Look at the Mercury. Oh! Now, with this being said, can I say a huge thank you to all of you who have watched to the very end of this video. And please hear me out on this last end slab piece. Thank you, because it means the world to get the support that really helps this video out. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button and sharing it out there to help me out on YouTube's algorithm. And can I say a further massive thank you to this channel's past, Patreons. Though Patreon has been removed now, replaced by YouTube membership, I must say thank you to you guys for your generosity over the years that you've been supporting me. To my donators, whose one-time donations still have a massive impact. To my Twitch subscribers, who, similar to YouTube members and patrons, give that bit extra to keep things going. And to YouTube members, future may you be. Because the generosity you guys show is what makes this video and subsequent videos possible. Seriously guys, you're keeping this channel afloat and helping it towards its dream. Thank you so much. YouTube members, on that note, please just quickly to you guys, keep an eye out and a lookout for your behind the scenes video, letting you see the testing of this ship and the upcoming screenshots that are available to you guys to download and use as you see fit for both this ship and the Deredex. The Scimitar variants have already been released. To everyone, I hope to see you over my Discord, where you can join in the conversation with the rest of the crew. And as it's time to disembark, for those that choose to leave, please stay safe and take care of yourselves. And for those wishing to join the crew of the Shadow Star, remember to subscribe and ring that notification bell. It's so important that you do so you do not miss out on future missions. Discord helps too. With that being said, again, this has been a pleasure. Stay safe everyone, and remember, live long and prosper. My friends, ciao for now. Helm, take us out.